Welcome to the Investing Podcast, presented by Tusk Media. Now, for your early morning look at financial news and activity in audio and video form, here's the Morning Market Mimosa.
Good morning, everybody. As Rebecca Black once said, it's Friday. This is the Investing Podcast. In particular, this is your Morning Market Mimosa. Today is June 3rd, 2016. Coming to the end of the week, really excited to be at the end of the week. I don't know about you guys. Always great to have Monday off, especially because then you get to follow off a lazy 3-day weekend with a 4-day work week. That's what summer's all about. We're excited about it. In light of that, we're going to hit you with a quick morning market mimosa, an update, a look at futures, look at the big storyline that is going to dominate the market in our anticipation for the day. We're also going to check back later with the stock market power lunch, and then we're going to call it a day. So we'll talk more about that towards the end of this episode. But in the meantime, quick update on the market. Futures are, for the most part, up just a little bit. The S&P 500 and the Dow both basically eking out small basis point gains in the futures market. The NASDAQ is actually lagging. I don't know if you remember this, but on the first day of the month, which was only 3 days ago, but seems like a year ago now, we made predictions for how the month of June would go. We talked about the equity markets for the most part being up, but I did predict that the NASDAQ might actually lag. We're only 2 full trading days into the cycle so far, and so far I'm completely wrong on that NASDAQ lag prediction, but maybe we'll see some of it today. At least on the future side, we are starting to see that. The story that, in our opinion, is going to define the market on a macro level today is the jobs report, and those jobs numbers are due pre-market. They should be coming out soon. We'll post something on Twitter. We'll obviously talk about it when we come back for the stock market power lunch. But the jobs report is especially important this month in June because we are expecting some conversation and a decision from the Federal Reserve. That's right, people. We have our own Federal Reserve ham horn here. So we're going to use that every time we talk about the Fed. Federal Reserve is making a decision in June with regards to interest rates. We've talked at length about this in previous episodes, but we didn't actually air those episodes. So our stance on the Fed is typically that when they say something, 90% of it is completely unimportant. They tend to use a lot of vague language, things like we might possibly do this, and if we do this, one possible outcome could be that. They tend to be very vague, but the general consensus by experts and several people who have spoken representing the Fed is that an interest rate hike is very much on the table. We've talked about the Federal Reserve and the roles of them. One of those roles is to achieve full employment, and that's really why the jobs report is going to be so important. Again, I think we will see solid market reaction to that in the single day, but will that reaction be based purely on 1 month worth of data? No, that reaction is going to be based on how it reflects what people anticipate from the Federal Reserve. So people are going to really read into that jobs number. Does it mean an interest rate hike is coming? If so, what does that mean for the equity market? Maybe the number is disappointing. Maybe that means the rate hike is put on the back burner, or at least not quite as attractive as it might have seemed a couple weeks ago. All of those things are going to be weighed when that data hits. So you'll probably know pretty quickly how the market's responding because, again, that's coming pre-market. We'll get to see what's happening pretty quickly. Along those lines, the S&P 500 and several other indices are actually really close to all-time highs. I don't know about you guys, but that really has snuck up on me. We think about what's been happening for the last 18 months or so in the stock market, and it seems like a whole lot of treading water. You get little runs, and they kind of pile up, and then you get strong pullbacks like we saw last August and as recently as this past January, and that seems to kind of wipe things off the board. But lost in all of that is the markets have been inching ever so slightly forward, and of course we've basically coming off of a run of 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and now 16, all being up years, and I guess it kind of makes sense that we're approaching an all-time high for the S&P 500. We're less than 1.5% away. As strong job numbers could put us right there. If we have that, we'll definitely note it on Twitter. Follow us at Tusk Media LLC. Maybe we'll throw a little party about it on Twitter. Maybe we'll even do an emergency podcast, but I wouldn't count on it. Speaking of podcasts, a little bit of housekeeping on our way out. We are now on iTunes. Big deal. We're not searchable on iTunes yet. From what I understand, it's going to take 48 hours. In about 48 hours, you'll be able to type in The Investing Podcast, and we'll pop up. But in the meantime, if you go to our Twitter handle, we do have a link on there to find us on iTunes. Please hit subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. Download the previous episodes. It sounds cheesy, but that really helps us out a lot in terms of getting traffic. Again, we're also on the Stitcher Radio app, so you can find that online as well as on Android and iPhone. We're also on Spreaker. Check us out there. So we're all over the place. Hit subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. Subscribing is more important now than ever, and I'm being completely cliche when I say that, but I am really excited because we are going to be recording some long-form podcasts today that will air next week and the week after. If you've listened to all of our stuff so far, you've heard one interview between myself and intern Joseph Bell. We called it What is Tusk Media? And it was kind of a behind-the-curtain look at what Tusk Media was going to be. And one of the topics we talked about was kind of these long-form podcasts that would talk about single interview subjects. Maybe we get with one person, go one-on-one, deep dive with them. We also talked about doing kind of some topical discussions on investing. We're recording 2 of those this afternoon. One's going to air next week, one the week after. So go ahead and hit subscribe. You want to make sure you get those when it happens. You don't want it to be lost in the shuffle of all our intraday updates. Obviously, the updates are going to continue to happen, so hopefully you're listening to those as well. We'll be back in just a little while with a stock market power lunch. We'll talk about the jobs number, we'll talk about market reaction, we'll talk about interest rates, and we'll look at some individual names at that time. Until then, have a great morning.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are our professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.